Admiral Kexaran's tentacles writhed in frustration as he stared at the empty sector map displayed before him. Two massive colony ships, each carrying 30,000 human refugees, had simply vanished. No debris, no distress signals, no explanation whatsoever. Sir, the last transmission from the Horizon's Promise was logged at coordinates Delta 779. His aide, Lieutenant Velcoris, reported with barely concealed anxiety. That was 6 standard cycles ago. The second vessel, New Terra's Hope, went silent 3 cycles after that, roughly 200 light-years further along their projected route. Kextaran's mandibles clicked together in what humans might have recognized as the Nexary equivalent of grinding teeth. The Galactic Council had assigned his fleet to escort these particular refugees specifically because they were considered problematic. These weren't your typical displaced civilians. These were the survivors of the Terran uprising, the ones who'd managed to give the hegemony military a very unpleasant surprise. Any response from our scout ships investigating the areas? That's the concerning part, Admiral. Scout Team Alpha reached the last known position of Horizon's Promise yesterday. They found nothing, not even trace particles. It's as if both ships never existed. The Admiral's second-in-command, Captain Nixbot Hack, leaned forward in his command chair. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" "Granted. These humans, they're not exactly normal refugees, are they? I mean, the files I have read suggest they managed to hold off 3 separate hegemony battle groups for nearly 2 years, using nothing but retrofitted mining equipment and pure stubbornness." Kextaran's laugh was a sound like grinding metal. "Stubbornness. That's putting it mildly, Captain. The reports I have seen describe them as clinically insane. Who in their right mind charges a dreadnought with a mining laser and actually expects to win? Humans, apparently." Velcoris muttered. "Sir, there's something else. Intelligence reports suggest there may have been disagreements among the refugee leadership before they departed." "What kind of disagreements?" "The kind that involve accusations of collaboration with the hegemony, sir. Apparently, there was significant tension between the military survivors and the civilian population. Some believe their escape was too convenient, too well orchestrated. From the depths of the Horizon's Promise, before its disappearance, Captain Marcus Steele had been dealing with exactly those kinds of accusations. The former Terra Marine had seen too much combat, lost too many friends, to care about political niceties anymore. "Listen carefully," Collins, he told his second-in-command during their final log conversation. "I don't give a damn what the civilian council thinks about our escape route. We have got 30,000 souls on this ship, and I will be damned if I'm going to let some conspiracy theorists get them killed because they think the hegemony let us go on purpose." Lieutenant Commander Jessica Collins, a woman whose left arm had been replaced with military-grade cybernetics after the Battle of Kepler Station, nodded grimly. "The refugees are getting restless, sir. The Nakamura family in Section C is convinced we are flying into a trap. They're talking about organizing some kind of intervention." Steele's scarred face hardened. "What kind of intervention?" "The kind where they try to take control of the navigation systems, sir. They think we should change course, head for the Outer Rim territories instead of the Council-designated safe zones. Over my dead body." As it turned out, that might have been prophetic. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief medical officer and one of the few people who'd managed to maintain her sanity throughout the war, had been monitoring the psychological state of the passengers. What she'd found wasn't encouraging. "Marcus, we are sitting on a powder keg here," she'd warned during their final medical briefing. "I have got PTSD cases, survivor's guilt, and about 6 different conspiracy theories spreading through the refugee populations. Some of these people think the Galactic Council is in league with the hegemony. Others are convinced that anyone who survived the final battle must be a collaborator." Steele had rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of command pressing down on him like a physical thing. "What's your recommendation, Doc?" "Honestly, we need to get these people planetside as soon as possible. Give them something to build, something to hope for. Right now, they're stuck in metal boxes with nothing but their fears and their trauma. It's not sustainable." That conversation had taken place exactly 7 cycles ago, one cycle before the horizon's promise vanished from all known space. Back in the present, Admiral Kexdoran was receiving updates that made his blood run cold. Sir, we have just received a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They are concerned about the missing vessels. Concerned? 2 ships carrying 60,000 humans have disappeared without a trace. And they are concerned. There's more, sir. Intelligence suggests that both vessels may have been carrying more than just refugees. According to intercepted hegemony communications, there were rumors of advanced human weapons technology aboard those ships. Experimental stuff from their military research programs. Kexdoran's tentacles went completely still. Are you telling me that we have lost 2 colony ships, potentially carrying advanced human military technology? That's exactly what I'm telling you, sir. The implications were staggering. Human military technology was already considered dangerous by Galactic Council standards. During the uprising, they demonstrated an alarming tendency to turn civilian equipment into weapons of mass destruction. Mining lasers became ship killers. Construction mesh became assault platforms. Even their entertainment systems have been weaponized in ways that defied conventional military thinking. Give me a direct line to Council intelligence. I want to know everything they have on the passenger manifests for both ships. And I mean everything. While Kexdoran was trying to piece together the mystery from his command ship, something very different was happening in a completely different part of the galaxy, on the bridge of a massive vessel that technically didn't exist according to any official records. Captain Isabella Izzy Ramirez was having what could charitably be called a bad day. So let me get this straight, she said, her voice carrying the kind of dangerous calm that her crew had learned to recognize as a prelude to spectacular violence. We have got 2 colony ships full of refugees who may or may not be carrying advanced weapons technology. They have vanished without a trace. And now the Galactic Council wants us to find them. That's about the size of it, Captain, replied her first officer, a cybernetically enhanced woman known only as Ghost. Council's offering a substantial reward for information leading to the recovery of the vessels and their passengers. Ramirez laughed, but there was no humor in it. Recovery, right? They want us to recover 60,000 refugees who have been missing for nearly a week. In the vastness of space, with no starting point except they were headed toward Council space. Her weapons officer, a heavily scarred man called Tank, looked up from his console. There's something else, Captain. I have been monitoring hegemony military frequencies. They are mobilizing search fleets too. 3 battle groups, minimum. Now that's interesting, Ramirez mused. The hegemony doesn't usually waste resources searching for refugees they have already displaced. Unless those refugees have something they want back, Ghost finished. The conversation was interrupted by their communications officer, a young woman named Riley who joined the crew after deserting from Council intelligence operation. Captain, I'm picking up some chatter from the smuggler networks. Word is there's a hegemony black ops team that's been asking questions about human colony ships in some very unfriendly parts of the galaxy. Ramirez leaned back in her command chair, her mind racing. The mathematics of the situation were starting to add up to something very unpleasant. 2 ships full of refugees, carrying possible advanced weapons technology, had vanished. The Galactic Council wanted them found. The hegemony was mobilizing significant resources to search for them. And Black Ops teams were making inquiries in places where decent people didn't usually venture. Riley, I want you to tap into every information network we have access to. Criminal, military, civilian, doesn't matter. I want to know if anyone has seen anything unusual in the last week. Ships where they shouldn't be, energy signatures that don't match standard propulsion, anything. Already on it, Captain. But there's something else you should know. I have been tracking the communication logs from both ships before they vanished. The passenger manifests, they don't add up. What do you mean? I mean, the official refugee count was 30,000 per ship, but the supply requisitions suggest they were carrying supplies for significantly more people. Maybe 40,000 per vessel. Tank looked up from his weapons console. Hidden passengers? Or hidden cargo? Ghost suggested. The kind of cargo that requires life support systems. Ramirez felt a chill run down her spine. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to form a picture she didn't like at all. Ghost, plot a course for the Terminus sector. If someone wanted to make 2 colony ships disappear, that's where they'd take them. The Terminus sector? Captain, that's pirate country. Specifically, that's Darius Kane's territory. At the mention of that name, the entire bridge fell silent. Darius Kane wasn't just any pirate. He was the kind of man who'd turned brutality into an art form, who collected enemy skulls as trophies, and who is rumored to have connections reaching into the highest levels of both the hegemony and the Galactic Council. Exactly, Ramirez said grimly. And if anyone in the galaxy has the resources to make 60,000 people disappear without a trace, it's him. As the ship changed course toward one of the most dangerous regions of known space, none of them could have imagined what they were about to find. The truth about the missing colony ships was darker than anyone suspected, and the consequences of their disappearance would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The hunt for the vanishing fleet had begun, and before it was over, the galaxy would learn once again why humans had earned their reputation as the most dangerous species in known space, even when they were supposed to be the victims. The Terminus sector was exactly as advertised, a collection of rogue planets, asteroid fields, and abandoned mining stations that serve as a haven for the galaxy's most dangerous criminals. Captain Isabella Ramirez guided her ship, the Midnight Prowler, through the treacherous navigation channels with the skill of someone who'd spent years running for various law enforcement agencies. Contact bearing 27 Mark 5. Ghost reported from her sensor station. It's big, Captain. Really big. Tank's scarred face split into a grin. Looks like we found our missing colony ships. But as they approached the coordinates, what they discovered was far worse than anyone had imagined. The 2 human vessels were intact, but they weren't alone. Surrounding them was a massive salvage operation, with dozens of smaller ships systematically stripping technology and people. Sweet, merciful stars, Riley whispered from her communications post. They're not just stealing the ships. They are harvesting the passengers. Ramirez's hands tightened on her command controls. She'd seen a lot of terrible things in her years as a mercenary, but this was something else entirely. The colony ships were being systematically dismantled while their human cargo was being sorted and loaded onto transport vessels. Riley, can you intercept any communications from that operation? Already trying, Captain. Most of it's encrypted, but I'm picking up references to specimen quality and combat effectiveness ratings. They are not treating these people like prisoners. They're treating them like inventory. The horrifying truth was becoming clear. The missing refugees weren't just victims of piracy. They were being processed for sale to the highest bidder, their military experience and combat skills making them valuable commodities in a galaxy where private armies were becoming increasingly common. Meanwhile, 3,000 light-years away, Admiral Doran was receiving intelligence reports that made his worst fears seem optimistic by comparison. Admiral, we have intercepted communications from a hegemony deep space monitoring station. They are tracking several unregistered vessels moving through the Terminus sector, all carrying what appears to be human cargo. Doran's tentacles writhed in agitation. Human cargo? Are you telling me someone is trafficking the missing refugees? It gets worse, sir. According to the intercepts, the buyers aren't just random criminals. We're talking about private military contractors, illegal research facilities, and at least 3 different rebel groups looking to acquire experienced human soldiers. The implications were staggering. 60,000 trained human combatants, scattered across the galaxy and sold to the highest bidders, could destabilize entire sectors. The Terran uprising had already demonstrated what a relatively small group of motivated humans could accomplish when properly organized. Sir, there's something else. Intelligence reports suggest that the trafficking operation is being coordinated by someone with intimate knowledge of human psychology and military tactics. This wasn't a random pirate raid. It was specifically planned to target these particular refugees. Back in the Terminus sector, Captain Ramirez was making a decision that would either save thousands of lives or get her entire crew killed. Probably both. Ghost, I want you to identify the command vessel for this operation. Tank, start charging our weapons systems. Riley, see if you can establish communication with either of the colony's ships. Captain, Ghost said slowly, you are not seriously thinking about taking on an entire salvage fleet by ourselves, are you? That's exactly what I'm thinking. Those are 60,000 innocent people down. They're being processed like livestock. I have done a lot of questionable things in my career, but I draw the line at slavery. Tank's grin widened. Now you're talking my language, Captain. Which ship do we hit first? Before Ramirez could answer, Riley's voice cut through the bridge chatter. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from one of the colony's ships. It's Captain Steele from the Horizon's Promise. Put him through. The voice that came through their communication system was hoarse with exhaustion and barely controlled rage. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Marcus Steele of the Terran Colonial Authority. If you're not part of this nightmare, I suggest you get out of here before they add you to their collection. Captain Steele, this is Captain Isabella Ramirez of the Midnight Prowler. We're here to help. What's your status? Status? Our status is that we have been betrayed, captured, and turned into a commodity. These bastards have been systematically removing our people, separating families, and shipping them off to whoever pays the highest price. We have managed to maintain control of our bridge, but they have got most of our passengers. Who's behind this operation? There was a pause before Steele answered, and when he did, his voice carried the weight of bitter betrayal. Darius Kane, just like you suspected, but he's not working alone. We have identified ships from at least 4 different criminal organizations, plus what looks like a hegemony intelligence vessel. The pieces of the conspiracy were falling into place. This wasn't just piracy. It was a coordinated effort to weaponize human refugees, turning them into tools for various factions throughout the galaxy. Captain Steele, we are going to get you out of there. How many of your people are still aboard? Maybe 5,000 on the Horizon's Promise, probably about the same on New Terra's Hope. The rest have already been redistributed. Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice joined the conversation, transmitted from the colony ship's medical bay. Captain Ramirez, I'm Dr. Vasquez, Chief Medical Officer. I need you to understand something. The people they have taken aren't just refugees. Many of them are combat veterans, engineers, scientists. If these criminals succeed in selling them across the galaxy, we're looking at the potential for dozens of new conflicts. What do you mean? I mean, imagine small-scale versions of a Terran uprising breaking out simultaneously across multiple sectors. Except this time, the humans aren't fighting for their freedom. They are fighting for whoever bought them. The horrifying implications were clear. The galaxy's most dangerous military force, scattered and enslaved, could reshape the balance of power throughout known space. From the bridge of his command vessel, Darius Kane was watching the approaching Midnight Prowler with amusement. The notorious pirate leader was a massive man, his body heavily modified with combat cybernetics, his face a roadmap of scars from countless battles. Looks like we have visitors, he said to his second-in-command, a reptilian creature known as Vex. One ship, medium class, probably mercenary configuration. They are either very brave or very stupid. Should we eliminate them? Kane laughed, a sound like grinding machinery. Not yet. I want to see what they are planning. It's been a while since I have had decent entertainment. What Kane didn't know was that Captain Ramirez had spent the last 15 minutes formulating a plan that was equal parts brilliant and insane. The kind of plan the humans were famous for throughout the galaxy. Here's what we're going to do, she told her crew. Riley, I want you to broadcast a general distress signal claiming that we are carrying a cargo of stolen hegemony weapons technology. Make it sound like we are trying to sell to the highest bidder. Captain, that's going to bring every criminal in the sector down on us. Exactly. Ghost, as soon as we have their attention, I want you to target their communication arrays and power systems. Not their weapons, their infrastructure. Tank, you're going to provide covering fire for a very specific purpose, which is we're going to create enough chaos to give the colony ships a chance to escape. But first, we need to send a message. Ramirez opened a channel to the entire salvage fleet. This is Captain Isabella Ramirez of the Midnight Prowler. You're holding 60,000 human refugees against their will. You have exactly 5 minutes to release them, or I'm going to show you why humans have the most feared military reputation in the galaxy." Kane's laughter echoed across the communication channel. "One ship against my entire fleet? Captain, you're either bluffing or suicidal. Maybe both. But here's the thing about humans, Kane. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure our enemies remember why they should have left us alone in the first place. What happened next would be remembered in pirate circles for generations to come. The Midnight Prowler, outnumbered 50-1, launched what could only be described as a tactical masterpiece of controlled chaos. Using the stolen hegemony weapons technology claim as bait, Ramirez managed to turn the various criminal factions against each other. While they fought over the rights to her supposed cargo, she systematically disabled their communication networks and power systems. The colony ships, taking advantage of the confusion, began powering up their engines. Captain Steele's voice crackled over the communications channel. "Ramirez, whatever you are doing, it's working. We are detecting multiple hull breaches on Kane's command vessel." "That's just the beginning," Ramirez replied grimly. "Tank, initiate the special package." Tank's scarred face split into a predatory grin as he activated a series of automated drones that the Midnight Prowler had been carrying. But these weren't ordinary combat drones. They were loaded with a very specific type of cargo. Recorded messages from a missing human refugees as the drones spread throughout the salvage fleet. They began broadcasting the voices of the kidnapped humans. Parents calling for their children. Soldiers demanding justice. Civilians pleading for help. The psychological warfare was devastating. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? Ramirez broadcast to the entire fleet. It's not our weapons or our technology. It's the fact that we never, ever forget. And we never, ever forgive. The battle that followed was brief but decisive. Caught between the tactical brilliance of the Midnight Prowler and the desperate fury of the colony's ships, Kane's fleet found itself outmaneuvered and outfought, but the victory came at a cost. As the two colony ships prepared to escape, Dr. Vasquez's voice came over the communication channel one final time. "Captain Ramirez, we are detecting massive system failures on both vessels. The damage from the salvage operations is more extensive than we thought. Can you make it to Council space?" "Unknown, but we're going to try. And Captain, thank you. You have given us a chance to save whoever we can." As the Horizon's promise and new Terra's hope limped away from the Terminus sector, their hulls scarred but their spirits unbroken, Captain Ramirez realized that the story wasn't over. The rescued refugees would need new homes, new lives, new hopes. But they were free, and across the galaxy, the message was clear. Humans might be refugees, might be displaced, might be outnumbered, but they were never, ever helpless. Admiral Kexdoran received the final report 3 days later. Both colony ships had made it to Council space, carrying nearly 15,000 survivors between them. The rest of the refugees have been scattered across the galaxy, sold to various factions, their fates unknown. "Sir," his aide reported, "intelligence estimates it will take years to track down all the missing humans. Some may never be found." Kexdoran's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Perhaps, but I have a feeling that wherever those humans ended up, their new captors are going to regret their decision. Humans have a way of turning even the worst situations to their advantage." He was right. But the real story was just beginning. 3 months after the battle in the Terminus sector, reports began filtering in from across the galaxy. A mining operation in the Kepler system had experienced what their corporate overlords politely termed labor disputes. The truth was more dramatic. A group of human refugees, sold as indentured workers, had not only organized a complete work stoppage, but had somehow managed to turn the mining equipment into defensive fortifications. They have barricaded themselves in the primary excavation site, the corporate security chief reported to his superiors. "Every time we try to approach, they hit us with modified plasma cutters. Somehow, they have turned the entire mine into a fortress." The humans' leader, a former Terran engineer named Rodriguez, had sent a simple message to the mining corporation: "We are not slaves. We are not property. And we are not leaving until you negotiate fair working conditions for everyone here, human and alien alike. Similar reports were coming in from research facilities, private military companies, and even from the pleasure planets where some refugees had been sold into less savory forms of service. In every case, the pattern was the same. Humans refusing to accept their circumstances, organizing resistance, and somehow managing to turn their situations to their advantage. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as the chief medical officer for the Refugee Resettlement Program, was documenting these incidents with growing amazement. "It's remarkable," she told Admiral Kexdoran during one of their regular briefings. "Every group we have tracked down has not only survived, but has actually improved conditions wherever they ended up." "How is that possible?" the Admiral asked. "These were people sold into slavery, scattered across hostile environments." "That's exactly why it's possible," Vasquez replied. "You have to understand, these aren't ordinary refugees. These are survivors of the Terran uprising. They have spent years learning how to turn impossible situations into victories. Slavery, hostile environments, overwhelming odds. These are just Tuesday for them." The most dramatic example came from the Outer Rim, where a group of 200 human refugees had been sold to a warlord named Gexmorth. The warlord had intended to use them as shock troops in his ongoing territorial disputes. Instead, he found himself facing a rebellion that would become legendary. "It started small," reported Captain Yexkol, one of the few survivors from Gexmorth's forces. "The humans were supposed to be expendable troops for our assault on the Crimson Nebula pirates. Instead, they made contact with the pirates, negotiated a ceasefire, and somehow convinced both sides to join forces against the hegemony patrol fleet that had been terrorizing the entire sector. The result was the formation of the Free Outer Rim Alliance, a coalition of former enemies united under human leadership. Within 6 months, they had not only driven the hegemony forces out of their territory, but had established the most successful anti-piracy program in that region of space. Gexmorth himself had been forced to adapt or be replaced. He chose adaptation, later describing it as the most educational experience of my career. These humans don't just fight. They think. They plan. They turn enemies into allies and problems into opportunities. Back on the bridge of the Midnight Prowler, Captain Isabella Ramirez was receiving updates on the scattered refugee populations with a mixture of pride and concern. "Ghost, how many confirmed locations do we have now?" 47 different sites across 23 sectors, Captain. And every single one of them has become some kind of success story. The humans aren't just surviving. They are thriving. "That should be good news," Ramirez mused. "So why do I have the feeling that the other major powers aren't going to see it that way?" Her instincts were correct. In the halls of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions were being called to address what some members were calling the human problem. Councillor Thexvarn, representative of the Centauri Trade Confederation, stood before the assembled delegates with barely concealed alarm. "Honored colleagues, we are facing an unprecedented situation. These scattered human populations are not behaving like refugees or displaced persons. They are acting like colonists." "What do you mean?" asked Counselor Nextdoral of the Interworld Alliance. "I mean they are systematically transforming every location they inhabit. Mining operations become industrial cooperatives. Research facilities become centers of innovation. Military units become liberation armies. They are not assimilating into existing structures. They're creating new ones." The most concerning report came from Admiral Kexdoran himself. "Council members, I must inform you that our intelligence services have identified at least 12 separate human-led organizations that have emerged from the refugee populations. These groups are not in communication with each other, yet they're all following remarkably similar patterns of organization and expansion. Are they a threat to Council authority? That's difficult to determine. They haven't directly challenged any Council worlds or installations, but they have successfully resisted hegemony forces, criminal organizations, and various corporate interests. Their influence is spreading through methods that our political scientists are still trying to understand. What the Council didn't fully grasp was that the scattered humans were doing what came naturally to them: building communities, solving problems, and refusing to accept injustice. It wasn't a coordinated conspiracy. It was simply human nature expressed on a galactic scale, the Dr. Vasquez had identified the pattern during her research. They are not following orders or implementing some master plan, she explained to anyone who would listen. They're just being human. When humans see a problem, they try to fix it. When they see injustice, they fight it. When they see an opportunity to build something better, they take it. The most remarkable example was taking place in the Vega system, where a group of human refugees had been sold to a failing agricultural colony. The colony had been on the verge of economic collapse, unable to compete with the large-scale farming operations controlled by the major corporations. Within 6 months of the humans' arrival, the colony had not only become self-sufficient, but had begun exporting innovative agricultural techniques to other struggling settlements. The humans had introduced concepts like crop rotation, soil restoration, and cooperative farming that had revolutionized productivity. The fascinating thing, reported the colony's original administrator, a beetle-like creature named Kexlaris, is that they didn't just improve our farming methods. They improved everything. Our communication systems, our transportation networks, our social structures. It's as if they see inefficiency and automatically start fixing it. But perhaps the most significant development was happening in a place that officially didn't exist. A hidden research station in the void sector where some of the most brilliant human scientists have been taken to. Dr. Alan Turner, former head of Terran Advanced Weapons Research, had been sold to a black market organization that specialized in developing illegal military technology. Instead of creating weapons for his captors, he had done something far more dangerous. He had begun sharing advanced human scientific knowledge with the other enslaved researchers. The thing about human science, Turner later explained, is that it's not just about the technology. It's about the methodology. We don't just ask, how can we build this? We ask, how can we build this better, cheaper, safer, and more efficiently? The result was a research revolution that sent shockwaves through the galactic scientific community. Innovations in energy production, medical technology, and space travel began appearing simultaneously across multiple sectors, all bearing the hallmarks of human engineering principles. The hegemony military, which had been monitoring these developments with growing concern, finally decided to act. General Vex Thorin, one of their most experienced commanders, was given a simple mission: neutralize the human influence before it could spread further. These scattered populations represent a clear threat to galactic stability, he told his staff officers. They must be eliminated before their influence spreads to other species. What General Vex Thorin didn't anticipate was that his very attempt to suppress the human refugees would trigger the largest coordinated resistance movement the galaxy had ever seen. The attack on the Vega agricultural colony was meant to be a demonstration of hegemony power. Instead, it became a rallying cry that united not just the scattered human populations, but countless other species who had benefited from human innovations and leadership. Captain Marcus Steele, now serving as the military coordinator for the refugee communities, sent a message that was broadcast across every communication network in known space, to every human scattered across the stars, and to every being who believes in freedom. They think they can make us disappear by hunting us down one by one. They are wrong. We're not victims. We're not refugees. We are the future. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Human-led groups throughout the galaxy began coordinating their efforts for the first time since the original colony ships had disappeared. But they weren't alone. The alien species they had worked with, helped, and inspired joined them in numbers that surprised everyone. Admiral Kexdoran, watching the development from his command ship, realized that the galaxy was witnessing something unprecedented. This isn't just about humans anymore, he told his staff. They have managed to inspire a galactic-wide movement for change. The final confrontation came not as a single battle, but as a series of simultaneous actions across dozens of systems. Human-led coalitions emerged from seemingly nowhere, supported by local populations who have been transformed by their presence. The hegemony found itself fighting not just scattered refugees, but a new kind of resistance that operated by different rules entirely. These weren't traditional military forces. They were communities, cooperatives, and alliances that had grown organically around human leadership and innovation. In the end, the scattered refugees accomplished something that no traditional military force had ever managed. They made the cost of oppression higher than the value of control. The hegemony, faced with continuous resistance across multiple sectors and the loss of support from populations they had previously dominated, was forced to sue for peace. The Galactic Council, recognizing the new reality, officially recognized the sovereignty of the human-led territories and established formal diplomatic relations with what became known as the Free Human Alliance. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as the Alliance's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, reflected on the extraordinary transformation during her inaugural address. "We didn't set out to change the galaxy. We just refused to accept that being scattered and sold meant we had to give up who we were. We remained human. And apparently, that was enough." Captain Isabella Ramirez, attending the ceremony as a representative of the independent mercenary guilds, watched with satisfaction as the human refugees took their place as equals among the galactic community. "You know," she told her crew, "sometimes the best rescue mission is the one that saves everyone." The vanishing fleet had indeed been found, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of being recovered as victims, the scattered humans had transformed themselves, their communities, and ultimately their entire region of the galaxy. They had proven once again that humans, even at their lowest point, possessed something that couldn't be bought, sold, or destroyed. The unshakable belief that tomorrow could be better than today, and the determination to make it so. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, as it turned out, was exactly what it needed.